All right, so we're back for part 3. This will be our last piece here to finish off our class. We just talked about the other two pieces of ground, so the wayside or the trampled flat piece of ground, which is when someone hears and doesn't understand the word, and then Satan comes and just takes it away. The adversary comes and gets rid of it. The second would have been the stony ground, so where the seed takes root for just a second, but doesn't have a good relationship with Jesus Christ. And so when the sun comes up, and when the tribulations come, and when things are hard, we drop it, we get rid of it. We find that following Jesus Christ is too difficult, so we stop. And then, third piece of ground. So, he who also received the seed among thorns is he that heareth the word, and the care of this world, and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. Now this is really cool, because this is something that I feel like we miss in this parable. So notice that it talks about the other plants, with the one on the wayside, with the one on the hard ground. Does anything grow? No. Seed gets taken away and gone, right? Nothing grows. So what about the ground with the rocks? Well, it does grow, right? Yeah, it grows. It does grow, but it doesn't have a lot of roots. So when the sun comes up, what did it say? In verse 5, it withered away. Gone. Blech. The plant dies, right? But what about this ground? So the ground with the thorns on it. See, I think this is really cool because in verse 20, as it describes it here, this plant grows. It grows. And it grows up. And it doesn't say it dies. It says it choked them, yeah, right? But it doesn't grow up. And in fact, it does grow, but what doesn't it do? In verse 20 at the end it says, and the care of the world and the deceitfulness of riches choke the word, and he becometh unfruitful. So I think this is really interesting that Jesus is talking about that, hey, these people have a relationship with Jesus Christ. The kingdom has taken root in their lives and it grows. But the problem here is that they allow other things to grow up with it. These thorns. And the thorns then cause the plant to not be fruitful. I imagine you've all had a garden. I'll be honest, Amy and I, we do not have green thumbs. We're terrible gardeners. She keeps trying, and I appreciate that. And we're going to keep trying, but I think we don't have the patience for it, because one of the things that we don't do a great job at is weeding. We really don't. We do a pretty terrible job at that. And so what happens is those weeds grow up with the plant, and they steal vital nutrients from the plant. They shade the plant, etc., etc. And all of that then adds together to cause that to not be fruitful. It causes the plant to not produce the very fruit that you planted it for, right? Does that make sense? And so, and unfortunately, once you let the thorns grow up with it, once you let the weeds grow up with it, then it becomes harder to get rid of those weeds. You got to get them when they're tiny, right? Otherwise, you can rip up the plant, the one you're trying to save. You can destroy the root structure. There's all kinds of things that can go wrong. As Jesus actually talks about in the next parable that I'm not going to do today, but the parable of the wheat and the tares. He talks about that. But anyway, so my point is, if you don't take care of your garden, the weeds are going to grow up right alongside your green beans or your tomatoes or your other things that you're trying to grow, and will steal vital nutrients from them and cause them not to be fruitful. Or even not as fruitful as they would have been. And so this is the interesting thing. I think Jesus is talking directly to you and to me about this specific piece of ground, or at least this is the one that hits the closest to home with me. He says, look, you allow the cares of the world and the deceitfulness of riches, again that's from verse 20, to choke the word. You allow these thorns and these plants to grow up, right alongside you, or right alongside the word, and they will make you unfruitful. They will keep you from doing all the things that I have for you. Because then, of course, in verse 21, but he that receiveth the seed into good ground, and he that heareth the word, understandeth, and endureth, keeps going, even when things are hard. Even when there are other cares of the world and deceitfulness of riches around them, they keep going. He that understandeth and endureth, which also beareth fruit, and bringeth forth some 100 times, some 60, and some 30. And that's verse 21. He's like, look, not everybody's going to bring forth the same fruit. Not everybody has the same ministry. Not everybody's going to be able to do the same things. But you'll be fruitful if you understand the word, understand what God's telling you, understand this gospel of the kingdom, and respond accordingly, right? And if you endure, if you keep doing it, even if it's hard, even if it's inconvenient. Because otherwise, you could be one of these plants that grows up. Yeah, you have somewhat of a relationship with Jesus Christ. Sure, you might go to church every Sunday, you go to church every Wednesday night, but yet, we allow the things of the world to grow up and to cut off or decrease our relationship with Jesus Christ, and therefore the things that we can do for him, for our community, for our family, for others around us. You know, I think this pandemic that we're currently going through is actually a reasonably good example of that. Look, if that's not a care of the world, I don't know what is. If we allow that to change us, if we allow that to make us into people who are not looking out for our brothers and sisters, if we allow that to change us into people who are not continuing in a relationship with him, then we are, we're that third piece of ground with all the thorns that grew up and that kept us from being fruitful. Look, I know most of you are going to be at home, and are going to be at home for a very long time, and especially, you know, if the state government or the federal government mandates one of those quarantine in place policies where you can't go anywhere except for, you know, pharmacy and food and things like that, you're going to have a lot of free time on your hands. Why not spend this time getting closer to God? Take that time, take some devotion time every morning. Talk to him about your worries, your concerns. Take time to read. Understand what he's trying to tell you. Allow him to broadcast that seed, that good news of the gospel, that good news of the kingdom into your heart. Water it. Plant it, water it, let it grow. Like Alma talks about. I think this is a great opportunity for God's people to really shine forth. Is there someone in your community that needs your help? Like, do they need groceries delivered? Are they quarantined and can't get out? Or are they a vulnerable population and therefore have self-quarantined? Great. Go deliver groceries. Check on them by phone. Hey, how you doing? Do you need anything? Maybe take some time to just call and chat because they're lonely. There are all kinds of ways for God's people to shine and be fruitful right now. So I guess the question is, we've talked about this parable in Matthew chapter 13, and the question is to you, what kind of ground are you? I've sown seed, right? We've broadcasted today. What kind of ground are you? Are you going to sit there and be like, yeah, I don't know, I'm not sure. Are you the wayside? That this seed is just going to fall on your heart and be plucked away? Or are you going to say, wow, yeah, you know, Kendall had some good ideas of how I can help people, and maybe I can think of some more ideas and start making plans, but then when tomorrow rolls around, it's not a big deal. I'm not going to worry about it or do it. And so you're that rocky soil that grows up at first, but then withers in the sun because, well, that's kind of too hard or that's difficult. Or are you going to really, you know, take root and maybe start to really think about this, but the cares of the world are going to get in your way? You're going to grow in Christ but be unfruitful? Or are you going to be that good ground? the ground that Christ is calling us to be. Ready to be fruitful even in the midst of tribulation, trials, difficulty, whatnot. Are you going to be there for your brothers and sisters? I sure hope so. Hey, thank you for watching. I love you guys very much. And like I said, we will try to continue to do this every Sunday. Maybe work in some live stuff. But again, go ahead and comment on any of these three, because there are going to be 3 posts with these videos. Go ahead and comment below with your questions, and I will try to do even a question and answer session potentially later today. Or if you have ideas for other classes or things that you might like to do in the meantime, just let me know, and I will certainly do my best to prepare those. Like I said, if we have enough questions, I'll even maybe try to do a live feed later today for our Facebook group and go from there. But anyway, we love you guys so much, and stay strong and continue to pray. And the Lord, I think the Lord has a lot that He wants to do with His people during this time, as always. So anyway, if you could bow with me, I'm going to go ahead and offer a prayer to close our class. Dear God, we thank you for this day. Father, I thank you for my brothers and sisters, and we just ask that you would be with them and care for them. And that, Father, the world right now is hurting. Lots of people worried, lots of people scared. And Father, we find that in you we have a peace that passes understanding. We know you're going to be with us and help us, but Father, please help us to be your hands and feet right now. Help us to be the good ground so that we can let our relationship with you grow and therefore make us fruitful. Father, please help us to know what we can do to help others, and we just praise you and thank you for all that you've given to us, and pray this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thanks, folks.